The great hall of the Galactic Council was silent. Hundreds of alien beings sat in their floating chairs waiting. The air smelled of ozone and strange flowers from a dozen different worlds. Blue light from the station's artificial sun filled the room through crystal windows. War Marshal Kyung-ho stood at the center of the hall. His 6 arms moved slowly as he spoke. Old scars covered his green-scaled skin. Some scars were from laser burns. Others were from blade cuts. His yellow eyes looked tired but serious. "You do not understand," he said. His voice was deep and rough. "Humans are not like other species. I have fought beside them. I have seen what they can do." Chancellor Haewon spread her beautiful feathered wings. She was the leader of the council. Her species looked like giant birds with silver and gold feathers. Her voice was musical when she spoke. "War Marshal, we thank you for your words. But humans are new to space. Their technology is simple. Their ships are slow. Their weapons are old. How can they be dangerous?" Other council members made sounds of agreement. Some clicked their claws. Others buzzed their wings. A few stamped their feet. They all thought the same thing. Humans were weak. Commander Taemin sat with the human group. He wore a simple blue uniform. His black hair was cut short. He watched Kyung-ho speak and remembered his own battles. He knew the old alien was telling the truth. Admiral Sora sat next to Taemin. She was older and had gray in her hair. Her uniform had many medals. She had fought in 3 wars before coming to space. She also knew what humans could do when they had to fight. Kyung-ho lifted one of his arms. A picture appeared in the air above him. It showed a burning planet. The sky was red with fire and smoke. "This is Vorthan 7, Kyung-ho said. 20 years ago, the Vorthan Empire attacked this world. They had 1 million soldiers. They had plasma cannons and force shields. They built a fortress that could not be broken. The picture changed. Now it showed a huge black building with thick walls and tall towers. Energy shields glowed around it like soap bubbles. The council sent an army to help the people of this world. We had good ships and smart plans. But we could not break the fortress. For 6 months we tried. Many of our soldiers died. We were ready to give up." Kyung-ho's yellow eyes looked directly at the council members. Then 50 human soldiers came. Just 50. Their leader was Captain Jin-woo. They had old guns and no fancy armor. The council generals laughed at them. We thought they would die in the first day. The alien war marshal was quiet for a moment. His scales seemed to change color as he remembered. Captain Jin-woo asked for one thing. He wanted 3 days with no help from us. 3 days to study the fortress. The generals said yes because they thought it did not matter. Humans would die and then we would try something else. The picture changed again. Now it showed human soldiers hiding in broken buildings. They looked small and weak next to the giant fortress. On the 4th day, the humans attacked, but they did not attack the walls or the shields. They went into the sewers under the fortress. They crawled through pipes and tunnels for 2 days. No food, no sleep, just moving forward. Some council members made sounds of confusion. Going through sewers was not how wars were fought. It was dirty and dangerous and made no sense. The Vorthan guards did not watch the sewers. Why would they? No smart being would crawl through waste and poison. But humans are not always smart in the way we think of smart. Kyung-ho's voice got quieter, but everyone could still hear him. The humans came up inside the fortress. They had lost 15 soldiers in the tunnels. Poison gas had killed some. Others had drowned in the wastewater. But the rest kept going. They always keep going. The picture now showed the inside of the fortress. Vorthan soldiers were running and screaming. Fires burned everywhere. Captain Jin-woo and his team took the main power station. They did not try to capture it. They did not try to hold it. They just broke everything they could break. Then they died fighting. The council chamber was very quiet now. Even the usual humming and clicking sounds had stopped. When the power died, the shields fell down. When the shields fell, we could attack the walls. In 1 hour, we took a fortress that we could not break for 6 months, all because 50 humans were willing to crawl through sewers and die in darkness. Chancellor Haewon's feathers ruffled. She was not comfortable with this story. "War Marshal, this is very sad, but it was just one battle. Humans were lucky. They were brave, yes, but luck is not the same as being strong." Kyung-ho's 6 arms moved in a gesture that meant disagreement in his culture. "It was not luck. I have seen humans fight in 12 battles. Every time they do things that make no sense. Every time they win when they should lose. They do not fight to live. They fight to make sure their enemies die." The old warrior looked around the great hall. His yellow eyes met the eyes of representatives from hundreds of worlds. There is something else, something more important. Humans do not break. When everything is lost, when death is certain, when any smart being would surrender, humans become something else, something we do not understand. General Yu Jin of the crystalline hegemony stood up. His body was made of living crystal that caught the light. His voice sounded like breaking glass. These are just stories from old wars. We have met humans in peace. They are polite. They follow our laws. They seem normal. Yes, Kyung-ho said. In peace they are normal. But you want to make them part of our military. You want to give them ships and weapons and send them to fight beside us. I am telling you what happens when humans have to fight. Commander Tae-min watched the council members talk among themselves. He could see they did not believe Kyung-ho. They thought humans were weak because human technology was simple. They could not understand that sometimes simple things worked better than complex things. Admiral Sora leaned over and whispered to Tae-min. They will not listen. They think we are children playing with toys. Tae-min nodded. He had expected this. Most aliens thought strength meant big ships and powerful weapons. They did not understand that sometimes strength meant being willing to crawl through sewers to complete a mission. Chancellor Haewon called for a vote. One by one, the council members made their choice. The vote was clear. Humans could join the Galactic Council, but only as civilians. No military service. No weapons. No fighting ships. Kyung-ho looked sad but not surprised. He had tried to warn them. Now he could only hope they would never need to learn the truth about humans the hard way. As the council meeting ended, Commander Tae-min caught the old alien's eye. Tae-min gave a small nod of respect. Kyung-ho nodded back. Both of them knew this was not over. Somewhere in the galaxy there was always another war coming, and when it came, the council would learn what Kyung-ho had tried to tell them. The truth about humans was simple. They did not fight to win. They fought to make sure winning was the only choice left. 6 months had passed since the council vote. Dr. Min Seo worked in her small lab on the council station. She was a human scientist who studied alien life forms. Her desk was covered with data screens and sample containers. She had been working for 3 days without sleep. The door opened and diplomat Young Jun walked in. He was tall and thin with kind eyes. His job was to make peace between humans and aliens. But peace was getting harder to make. Min Seo, you need to rest, he said. The council meeting is tomorrow. You need to be ready. Dr. Min Seo looked up from her work. Her black hair was messy and her eyes were red from staring at screens. I am ready, she said. Look at this data. Humans are different from every other species in the galaxy. Not just a little different. Very different. She pointed to a screen full of numbers and charts. Young Jun could not understand most of it, but he could see that human numbers were not like alien numbers. What does it mean? He asked. It means humans think in ways that other species cannot think. When most beings see a problem, they look for the logical answer. Humans look for any answer that works, even if it does not make sense. Dr. Min Seo touched the screen and new pictures appeared. They showed brain scans from different species. Look here. When aliens face danger, their brains slow down. They think carefully. They make safe choices. But human brains speed up. They start thinking of crazy ideas. Most of the ideas are bad, but some are brilliant. Young Jun sat down in a chair. He was tired from weeks of meetings with council members who did not want to listen. Will they believe your research? He asked. I do not know. General Yu Jin thinks human technology proves we are primitive. Chancellor Haewon thinks we are too emotional to fight well. They do not understand that being different can be good. Far away from the council station, Captain Da-un flew her ship through dark space. Her ship was small and painted black, so it could not be seen easily. She was looking for something that the council said did not exist. For weeks, human ships had been seeing strange things at the edge of council space. Shadows that moved wrong. Energy readings that appeared and disappeared. The council's sensors saw nothing, but human pilots trusted their feelings more than their machines. Da-un checked her instruments again. Everything looked normal. Empty space, distant stars, nothing dangerous. But something felt wrong. She had learned to trust that feeling during her years as a pilot. She turned her ship toward a group of asteroids. If someone was hiding ships, that would be a good place to do it. Her scanners showed rocks and ice and metal ore. Nothing alive. Nothing dangerous, but the feeling got stronger. Da-un turned off her engines and let her ship drift. She closed her eyes and listened to the sounds of her ship. The air recycler hummed. The computer beeped softly. Everything normal, then she heard it. A sound that should not be there. Very quiet, but definitely there. It sounded like her scanner was picking up something far away. She opened her eyes and looked at her instruments again. Still nothing. But the sound was still there. Dayun made a choice that most alien pilots would think was crazy. She turned off all her scanners and flew toward the asteroids using only her eyes and her feelings. As she got closer, the strange sound got louder. Now she could see why. The asteroids were not just rocks. Some of them had straight edges. Some had metal that reflected starlight in patterns that rocks could not make. Ships. Hundreds of ships. Maybe thousands. All painted to look like asteroids, all hiding among real rocks. Da'un turned her ship around very slowly and very quietly. She did not want the hidden ships to know she had seen them. As she flew away, she counted what she could see. At least 2,000 ships. All of them bigger than anything the council had. Back on the council station, General Subin sat in a meeting room with other human officers. Subin was old and smart and had fought in more wars than she wanted to remember. She did not like what her scouts were reporting. "Show me the map again," she said. Admiral Sora touched a control and a star map appeared in the air above the table. Red dots showed where human ships had seen strange things. There were a lot of red dots. "They are surrounding us," Subin said. "Whoever they are, they have ships all around council space. They are getting ready for war." Commander Taemin looked at the map and felt worried. "The council will not believe us. Their sensors do not see anything." "That is because their sensors look for what they expect to see," Sora said. "Humans look for what should not be there." Subin stood up and walked to the window. Outside, she could see council ships moving in neat formations. Everything looked peaceful and safe, but she knew it was not. "We need to tell them anyway," she said, "even if they do not believe us." The next day, Dr. Minseo stood before the Galactic Council. The Great Hall was full of alien beings who thought they knew everything about war and peace. She felt very small and very human. "Honored Council," she began. "My research shows that humans have abilities that other species do not have. We can see patterns that others miss. We can make connections that seem impossible. We can solve problems in ways that logic says will not work." General Yujin's crystal body flashed with colored lights. In his species, flashing lights meant disagreement. "Dr. Minseo, we have studied human technology. Your ships are slow. Your weapons are weak. Your computers are simple. How can you claim to be superior?" "I do not claim we are superior," Minseo said. "I claim we are different. Sometimes different is exactly what you need." She showed the council her brain scans and her research data. She explained how human minds worked in ways that alien minds did not work. She talked about pattern recognition and creative problem solving, and the ability to find solutions in chaos. Most of the council members were polite but did not seem interested. A few asked questions, but their questions showed they did not really understand. Chancellor Haiwan thanked Dr. Minseo for her presentation. Then she called for the next part of the meeting. Diplomat Young Jun stood up to speak. "The human government offers a partnership," Young Jun said. "We will share our ships and our soldiers with the council military. In return, we ask for equal treatment and equal voice in decisions." The council talked among themselves. Their voices made a sound like a storm wind blowing through different kinds of trees. General Yujin spoke for the military committee. "We thank humans for their offer, but we cannot give equal status to a species with primitive technology. We offer junior partnership instead. We will protect human worlds. Humans will provide raw materials and basic labor." Young Jun felt his face get hot with anger, but he kept his voice calm. "That is not partnership. That is slavery with nice words." "It is practical," Chancellor Haiwan said. "Humans are new to space. You need time to learn. When your technology improves, we can discuss equal partnership." In the human section, Commander Taemin watched Admiral Sora's face. He could see she was thinking about something important. Sora stood up and spoke in a clear, strong voice. "We have information about enemy ships gathering at your borders. Our scouts have seen them. They are preparing for war." The council chamber became very quiet. War was always a serious subject. "Where are these ships?" General Yujin asked. "Our sensors detect no threats. Your sensors are not designed to see ships that do not want to be seen," Sora said. "Our pilots have different training. They trust their instincts as much as their instruments. General Yu Jin made a sound like breaking glass. It was laughter in his species. You want us to believe that human feelings are better than council technology? I want you to believe that different ways of seeing can find different things, Sora said. She showed the council the reports from human scouts. She showed them the map with red dots. She explained how the pattern looked like preparation for invasion. The council members talked among themselves again. This time their voices sounded worried, but in the end they made the same choice they always made. They trusted their technology more than human reports. They offered humans the same junior partnership deal. Young Jun looked at Dr. Min Seo and shook his head. She had tried to explain with science. He had tried to explain with diplomacy. Admiral Sora had tried to warn them about danger. None of it had worked. As the humans left the council chamber, they did not know that Captain Da-Yun was already sending her report about the hidden ships. They did not know that in 3 days the first attack would come, but they knew something the council did not know. When the attack came, the aliens would learn what Dr. Mincio had tried to tell them. Humans were different, and sometimes different was exactly what the galaxy needed. The attack came at dawn on Kepler Station. Lieutenant Dong Hyun was drinking coffee in the human section when the alarm started screaming. Red lights flashed everywhere. The station shook like it was caught in an earthquake. All human personnel to battle stations, came Admiral Sora's voice over the speakers. This is not a drill. Dong Hyun ran to his post. He was young and had never fought in a real war. His hand shook as he put on his armor and checked his weapon. Around him, other human soldiers were doing the same thing. They looked scared but determined. The main screen in the command center showed what was happening. Huge alien ships were attacking 3 council border systems at the same time. These ships were bigger than anything in the council fleet. Their weapons cut through council shields like paper. General Subin stood at the command table, watching the reports come in. Her face was grim but not surprised. She had expected this attack for weeks. Kethavar Empire, she said to Commander Taemin. The scouts were right. They were gathering for war. On the screen they could see council ships trying to fight back. The alien ships moved in perfect formation like they were dancing. Their weapons fired in patterns that destroyed everything they touched. In just 2 hours, the council lost 60 ships. Chancellor Haewon's voice came through the communication system. She sounded afraid. Human command, we request immediate assistance. Our forces are having difficulties. Admiral Sora looked at General Subin. They both knew what difficulties meant. The council was losing badly. What are our terms? Sora asked. There was a long pause before the Chancellor answered. Any terms you want. Just help us. Subin stepped forward to the communication device. Complete operational control. No council oversight. No questions about our methods. No interference with human tactics. Another pause. Then agreed. Commander Yunji was already in her ship when the orders came. She commanded a small destroyer with a crew of 200 humans. Her ship was old and slow compared to council vessels, but it had something the aliens did not understand. It had a crew that thought like humans. Navigation, plot a course for Sanctuary 3, she ordered. Best speed. Ma'am, that system is under attack. Council forces are retreating, her navigator said. Perfect, Yunji said. When everyone else is running away, that's when we attack. Her ship jumped to hyperspace while council forces were still trying to organize their retreat. When they arrived at Sanctuary 3, they found a planet in chaos. The planet had a refugee camp with 100,000 beings from different species. They were people who had lost their homes in previous wars. Now the Kethavar army was coming to kill them all. Lieutenant Dong Hyun's marine unit was the first to land. 40 humans against 50,000 enemy soldiers. The math was simple. They were going to die. But Dong Hyun had been trained by humans who understood that math was not everything. Sergeant Boram, take your team and set charges in the mountain pass, he ordered. Make it look like we're planning to run away through there. But sir, that pass leads nowhere. It's a dead end. Exactly, Dong Hyun said. The enemy will think we're stupid. Let them think that. While Boram's team set fake escape routes, Dong Hyun studied the land around the refugee camp. The council evacuation plan called for loading people onto ships while the army held defensive positions. It was a good plan that would save maybe 30,000 refugees. Dong Hyun threw the plan away and made a new one. Instead of defending the camp, his marines spread out across the valley. They hid in caves and behind rocks. They dug holes and covered them with branches. They made the whole valley into a trap. When the Kethvar army came, they saw a small camp defended by a few dozen humans. It looked like easy prey. The enemy commander ordered a full charge across the valley floor. The first explosion killed 100 Kethvar soldiers. Then another explosion. Then another. The humans had turned every path, every hill, every safe-looking place into a death trap. But the explosions were just the beginning. As the enemy army spread out to avoid the mines, they walked into carefully planned kill zones. Human snipers hidden in impossible places began picking off officers and communication specialists. Commander Eunji watched from orbit as Dong Hyun's plan worked. The Kethvar army was not being defeated. It was being confused, frustrated, and slowly destroyed by an enemy they could not find or understand. "Send down more ships," she ordered. "Begin refugee evacuation now, while the enemy is distracted." The evacuation ships landed behind the human defensive lines. Refugees ran toward safety while explosions and gunfire echoed through the valley. It should have been chaos, but the humans had planned for chaos. Captain Wu Jin was leading his Special Forces team on an even more dangerous mission. While the battle raged on Sanctuary 3, his team was trying to capture a Kethvar command ship. The ship was surrounded by 50 other warships in a heavily defended formation. Council analysts said the mission was impossible. The chances of success were so small they could not be measured. Wu Jin and his 12 soldiers approached the enemy fleet in a ship that looked like space junk. It was old and broken and gave off no energy signals. The Kethvar sensors ignored it completely. "Remember," Wu Jin told his team, "we are not trying to fight their whole fleet. We just need to get inside one ship for 10 minutes. His plan was simple and insane. They would crash their junk ship into the command vessel, board it during the confusion, steal all the information they could find, and then escape in Kethvar shuttles. The crash worked perfectly. The Kethvar ship's shield stopped most of the damage, but the impact opened a hole in the hull. Wu Jin's team floated through the hole in spacesuits before the enemy could seal it. Inside the ship, they found something amazing. The Kethvar kept all their battle plans in one central computer. It was protected by guards and energy shields and security systems that would take years to break. Wu Jin looked at the computer and smiled. "Sergeant, do you still have those explosives?" "Yes, sir, but if we blow up the computer, we won't get any information." "We're not going to blow up the computer," Wu Jin said. "We're going to blow up everything around it and take the whole thing with us." 10 minutes later, they escaped in a stolen Kethvar shuttle, carrying the enemy's most important computer. Behind them, the command ship was burning and its crew was in panic. Back on Sanctuary 3, Lieutenant Dong Hyun was finishing his mission. The Kethvar army had lost 8,000 soldiers to kill just 6 humans. The refugees were safe on council ships flying away from the battle. "Sir," Sergeant Boram said, "the evacuation is complete. All refugees are away." Dong Hyun looked at his remaining soldiers. They had done something impossible. They had saved 98,000 lives with 40 people and a lot of explosives. "Orders from command," his radio crackled. "All human forces withdraw immediately. Mission complete." As the human ships left Sanctuary 3, the Kethvar army finally captured the empty refugee camp. They had lost thousands of soldiers to save nothing. Their careful plans were in ruins and their command ship was destroyed. On the main council station, Chancellor Haewon watched the battle reports with amazement and fear. In one day, humans had achieved what council forces could not do in weeks. But she was also afraid because she finally understood what War Marshal Kyung-ho had tried to tell her. Humans did not fight to win. They fought to make sure winning was the only choice left. And they would sacrifice anything, including their own lives, to make that happen. General Yu Jin's crystal body flashed with confused colors. How did they do it? 40 soldiers against 50,000? Admiral Sora, watching from the human command center, gave him an answer he would never forget. They did it by being human. By seeing a problem everyone said was impossible and deciding to solve it anyway. By being too stubborn to accept defeat and too crazy to follow sensible tactics. The first battle was over, but the war was just beginning. And now the council knew what they had refused to believe. Humans were different. Very different. And in a war for survival, different might be exactly what they needed. The captured Kethvar computer sat in a secure room on the council station. Captain Wu Jin's impossible mission had given them the enemy's complete battle plans. What they found inside made everyone afraid. Admiral Sora stood with General Subin and Commander Taemin, looking at the star maps the computer had revealed. Red arrows showed the Kethvar strategy. It was brilliant and terrifying. They planned to trap our main fleet here. Sora pointed to the Andros Nebula on the map. While we're fighting there, their second army will attack the capital directly. General Subin studied the numbers. They have 15,000 ships. We have maybe 3,000 left after the border attacks. Commander Taemin looked at the timing charts. They attack in 6 days. Not enough time to build more ships or call for help from other galaxies. The three humans stood quietly for a moment, thinking about what seemed like certain defeat. Then Sora smiled in a way that made the others nervous. "Send a message to all human units," she said. "Tell them it's time for Plan Crazy." Plan Crazy was something human commanders had talked about for months. It was a strategy so dangerous that even humans had hesitated to use it. But now they had no choice. Admiral Sora called a meeting with all the council military leaders. General Yu Jin came along with commanders from a dozen other species. They all looked worried and tired. "We have a plan to defeat the Kethvar," Sora announced. The alien commanders looked hopeful for the first time in days. "We will split our forces into small groups," Sora continued. "Each group will operate alone with no support and no backup. They will attack targets deep in enemy territory with no way to retreat." The hope died in the aliens' eyes. General Yu Jin's crystal body flashed angry red colors. "That is not a plan," he said. "That is suicide." "No," Sora said calmly. "That is how humans fight when everything depends on winning." She showed them the detailed strategy. Human units would spread across 50 different star systems. Each unit would attack impossible targets with insufficient forces. Each unit would be cut off from help and surrounded by enemies. "You are asking us to watch our allies die," said Commander Valny of the Aquatic Federation. "We are asking you to watch us win," Sora replied. Colonel Jae-hyun got his orders 3 hours later. "Take 12 soldiers to the Kethvar shipyard at Nexus 7. Destroy the facility." The shipyard was a fortress the size of a small moon, defended by 1 million troops. Jae-hyun looked at his team. Sergeant Hee-jin was an explosives expert. Corporal Sung-ho was their computer specialist. The others were Marines who had volunteered for missions that had no survivors. "Sir," Hee-jin said, "how exactly do we destroy a moon-sized fortress with 12 people?" "We don't destroy it from the outside," Jae-hyun said. "We destroy it from the inside." Their ship was disguised as a Kethvar supply vessel. Getting past the outer defenses was easy, because Corporal Sung-ho had hacked the enemy identification codes. But getting inside the fortress would be much harder. "We surrender," Jae-hyun announced as enemy ships surrounded them. His team looked at him in shock. "Sir, we surrender and let them capture us. They will bring us inside for questioning. That's when we complete the mission." On another battlefield, Sergeant Boram was fighting a very different kind of war. She was alone on a planet behind enemy lines, hunting Kethvar commanders with a sniper rifle. Boram moved through forests and cities like a ghost. She would appear, kill one target, and vanish before anyone could find her. But she was not just killing enemies. She was making them afraid. Every Kethvar officer who died left a message written in their own language. "Humans are coming." The psychological effect was exactly what Boram wanted. Enemy soldiers began jumping at shadows. They saw human threats everywhere, even when no humans were there. They wasted time and energy looking for ghosts. On the council station, Commander Tae-min was working with alien officers to teach them human tactics. It was not easy. Most aliens thought logically and carefully. Humans thought chaotically and creatively. When you see an impossible situation, Taemin explained to a group of council officers, do not look for the logical solution. Look for the solution that your enemy will never expect. Captain Mirki of the Crystalline Hegemony raised her crystal hand. But if a solution is illogical, why would it work? Because your enemy is also logical, Taemin said. They plan for logical responses. They do not plan for crazy responses. He showed them examples from human military history, times when humans had won battles by doing things that made no sense. Attacking when they should retreat. Retreating when they should attack. Fighting when they should negotiate. Negotiating when they should fight. The key is to make your enemy confused, Taemin said. When they cannot predict what you will do, they cannot plan to stop you. Colonel Jae-hyun and his team were now prisoners in the heart of the Kethvar fortress. They sat in a holding cell waiting for interrogation. The guards thought they had captured dangerous humans who would tell them about council battle plans. They were right about the dangerous part. "The charges are ready," Heejin whispered. "Hidden in our uniforms and equipment. How long do we have?" Jaehyun asked. 30 minutes once I start the timer." Jaehyun looked at his team. They all knew this mission had no survivors. They had known that from the beginning, but they also knew that destroying this shipyard would save millions of lives. "Do it," he said. The nuclear charges were small but very powerful. They were designed to cause a chain reaction in the fortress's power systems. In 30 minutes, the explosion would destroy everything within 100 kilometers. 25 minutes later, the interrogation began. The HFY commander wanted to know about human tactics and council fleet positions. Jaehyun gave him honest answers. "Humans fight by doing things you cannot predict," he said. "We win by being willing to lose everything." The alien commander did not understand what that meant until the explosions started. Sergeant Boram watched the night sky light up as the shipyard exploded. Even from 50 light-years away, the explosion was visible as a bright new star. She knew that 12 humans had just died to give the galaxy a chance. She picked up her rifle and continued hunting enemy commanders. There were still many targets left. Commander Eunji led a mixed fleet of human and council ships against a HFY supply convoy. Her ships used human tactics with alien technology. They appeared where the enemy did not expect them, struck fast, and vanished before retaliation could arrive. "Human ship, your attack pattern makes no mathematical sense," said Captain Veldar of a council cruiser. "Good," Eunji replied. "If we cannot understand our own tactics, the enemy definitely cannot." The supply convoy was destroyed in minutes. Without supplies, the HFY fleet advancing on the capital would have to slow down or stop. That gave the council more time to prepare. But the most important battle was happening in space around War Marshal Kyung-ho's flagship. The old alien commander was leading a mixed fleet of council and human ships against the main HFY army. Kyung-ho had learned to think like a human during his years fighting alongside them. He understood that sometimes the best strategy was the one that looked like defeat. "All ships begin retreat," he ordered. "Make it look like we are running in panic." The council captains were confused, but they followed orders. Their ships turned away from the enemy and began moving toward the gravity well of a dying star. The HFY fleet, seeing victory within reach, accelerated to chase them. Their commander, Supreme Leader Nextar, ordered all ships to maximum speed. "They are running," Nextar announced to his fleet. "Today we end this war." But Kyung-ho was not running. He was leading the enemy into a trap that had taken months to prepare. Hidden throughout the star system were automated weapon platforms, powered down and invisible to enemy sensors. As the HFY fleet entered the gravity well, chasing what they thought was a defeated enemy, General Subin gave the activation signal from her command ship. Thousands of hidden weapons came online at once. The HFY found themselves surrounded by firepower they had never detected. Caught in the gravity well, they could not escape quickly enough to avoid the trap. Supreme Leader Nextar realized what had happened, but it was too late. His fleet was trapped between gravitational forces they could not escape and weapons they had never seen coming. "This is impossible," he broadcast to the human fleet. "You planned your own defeat." War Marshal Kyung-ho answered him over the communication channel. "I learned from humans that sometimes the best way to win is to make your enemy think you are losing." The battle became a massacre, but not of council forces. The HFY invasion fleet was systematically destroyed by weapons they could not escape, and tactics they could not understand. When it was over, Admiral Sora stood on the bridge of her flagship, looking at the wreckage of 15,000 enemy ships. The war was won, but the victory had cost them dearly. Hundreds of humans had died in missions that seemed impossible. Colonel Jae-hyun would never come home. Neither would many others, but their sacrifice had saved the galaxy from conquest. Chancellor Haewon's voice came over the communication system. "Human command, the Council owes you a debt we can never repay." "No debt," Sora replied. "We are allies now. Equals. That is payment enough." The tide had turned, but the price of victory had been paid in human courage and alien blood. The war should have been over. The main HFY fleet was destroyed. Their shipyards were burning. Their supply lines were cut. But Supreme Commander Nextar was not ready to surrender. Deep in HFY space, emergency signals called every remaining ship to one final battle. Nextar had been the greatest military leader in his species' history. He had conquered 12 galaxies and never lost a war. He would not lose this one either. Bring everything, he ordered his remaining admirals. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier. We will crush them with one final attack. War Marshal Kyung-ho received the intelligence reports on his flagship. Despite his age and injuries, he had refused to retire after the first victory. The council needed someone who understood how humans fought, and he was the only alien who truly understood. They are gathering 15,000 ships, Commander Taemin reported. Every Kethvar vessel still capable of fighting. Kyung-ho's 6 arms moved slowly as he studied the tactical display. His yellow eyes were tired but still sharp. How many ships do we have? He asked. 3,000. Admiral Sora replied from her position at the communication console. We lost many ships in the last battles. The numbers were simple and terrible. The Kethvar still had 5 times more ships than the combined Council and human fleets. In a normal war, the outcome would be certain defeat for the defenders. But Kyung-ho had learned that humans did not fight normal wars. General Subin stood at the main tactical table, looking at star charts and fleet positions. She had been planning this moment for weeks, hoping it would never come but preparing for it anyway. We could retreat, suggested General Yujin. His crystal body was flickering with nervous energy. Fall back to the core systems and defend there. No, Subin said quietly. If we retreat now, they will destroy everything between here and the core. Billions will die while we build new defenses. Captain Daun was already preparing her stealth ship for another reconnaissance mission. She had been watching Kethvar movements for days, tracking how they gathered their forces. They are moving all their ships to the nexus point, she reported. It's the perfect place for them to stage their final attack. The nexus point was a region of space where several hyperspace routes met. From there, the Kethvar could attack any council world within days. It was also surrounded by the gravity wells of 3 dying stars. Subin looked at the star chart and smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had just thought of something terrible and necessary. Send a message to all human units, she said. Tell them we are implementing Final Protocol. Final Protocol was the most dangerous plan in human military doctrine. It was a strategy that no sane species would attempt because it required perfect timing, absolute trust, and the willingness to sacrifice entire fleets as bait. Admiral Sora called a meeting with all the senior officers, both human and alien. The council representatives looked worried. They had learned to fear human plans that seemed impossible. We will appear to retreat in panic, Sora explained. Our entire fleet will run toward the nexus point looking defeated and desperate. Chancellor Haewon, attending the meeting by hologram, spread her feathered wings in distress. You want to run directly toward their strongest position? Yes, Sora said. We want them to think they have won. We want them to follow us into the gravity wells, where their larger ships will be trapped by the stellar forces. War Marshal Kyung-ho understood immediately. His scarred face showed something that might have been admiration or terror. You are planning to use the dying stars as weapons, he said. Not just the stars, General Subin added. For the past 6 months, we have been placing automated weapon platforms throughout that region. Thousands of them powered down and invisible to enemy scanners. The alien officers made sounds of shock and disbelief. The scope of the plan was beyond anything they had imagined. This means you have been planning to lose this war from the beginning, General Yujin said. No, Kyung-ho corrected him. They have been planning to win by making it look like they were losing. Captain Daun led the first phase of the retreat. Her ship and dozens of others fled toward the nexus point, broadcasting emergency signals and making every appearance of a broken fleet running for its life. Behind them, the massive Kethvar armada followed like a pack of hunters chasing wounded prey. Supreme Commander Nextar watched from his flagship as the human and council ships ran toward what looked like a dead end. They have nowhere left to run, he announced to his fleet. Today we finish what we started. Lieutenant Dong Hyun, now promoted to captain after his heroic actions at Sanctuary 3, commanded one of the ships in the retreating fleet. His crew was young and scared, but they trusted their captain and their human training. Sir, his navigation officer said, we are approaching the gravity wells. If we go much further, we won't be able to escape. That's the point, Dong Hyun said. We need them to think we are trapped. The human fleet entered the space between the 3 dying stars. The gravity from the massive stellar bodies made movement slow and difficult. It was exactly the kind of place where a fleeing army might get trapped by their pursuers. The Kethvar fleet accelerated, sensing final victory. Their ships were larger and more powerful than the human vessels. In the confined space of the gravity wells, there would be nowhere for the smaller ships to hide. Supreme Commander Nextar felt satisfaction as his ships surrounded the human fleet. After months of frustrating defeats, he finally had his enemies exactly where he wanted them. "Surrender now," he broadcast to the human ships, "and we will make your deaths quick." Admiral Sora answered from her flagship. "We have a counteroffer." That was the signal General Subin had been waiting for. All across the Nexus Point, hidden weapon platforms came online. They had been placed over 6 months of careful preparation, disguised as space debris and powered down to avoid detection. Each platform was small, but there were thousands of them. The HFY suddenly found themselves surrounded by weapons they had never seen and trapped in gravity wells they could not quickly escape. Their larger ships, which had been their advantage, now became liabilities in the confined space. But the weapons were only part of the trap. General Subin had one more surprise. "All ships, implement Stellar Cascade Protocol," she ordered. The human ships, which had seemed to be fleeing in panic, suddenly launched torpedoes at the dying stars. The torpedoes carried special warheads designed to destabilize stellar cores that were already near collapse. Supreme Commander Nextar realized what was happening just as the first star began to explode. "You are insane," he broadcast. "You will destroy yourself along with us." "Yes," Admiral Sora replied calmly, "but you will be more destroyed than we will." The stellar explosion sent shockwaves through the Nexus Point. The HFY ships, caught in the gravity wells, could not escape the expanding wave of destruction. Their heavy vessels were crushed by forces beyond imagination. The human ships, smaller and more maneuverable, had been positioned to ride the shockwave like surfers riding a giant wave. It was incredibly dangerous and many ships were lost, but it was possible for vessels that had been designed with this exact scenario in mind. Captain Da-Yun watched from her stealth ship as the HFY fleet was systematically annihilated. 15,000 enemy ships were reduced to wreckage in less than an hour. Supreme Commander Nextar's flagship was among the last to be destroyed. His final transmission was picked up by human communication arrays. "How?" he asked. "How did you plan to destroy yourselves in order to win?" War Marshal Kyung-ho answered him over the emergency channel. "Because humans do not fight to live. They fight to make sure their enemies die, and they are willing to pay any price to protect what they love." When the battle was over, less than half the human fleet remained. The victory had cost them dearly, but the HFY Empire was finished. Their military was destroyed, their leadership dead, their expansion stopped forever. 6 months later, War Marshal Kyung-ho stood once again before the Galactic Council. But now the Great Hall looked very different. Human representatives sat as equals among the alien delegates. The seating arrangement showed that humans were no longer junior partners, but full members of the galactic community. Commander Tae-min, now Admiral Tae-min, sat with the human delegation. His uniform bore new medals and his face showed the experience of someone who had survived a war that should have been impossible to win. Dr. Min Seo's research was now required reading. At every military academy in council space, her work on human psychology had become the foundation for new tactical doctrines that combined alien technology with human creativity. 6 months ago, Kyung-ho said to the assembled council, "I tried to warn you about humans. I told you they were different from other species. I told you they did not fight the way logical beings fight." His 6 arms gestured to the human section of the chamber. "You did not believe me because their technology was primitive and their ships were small. You thought strength meant having the biggest weapons and the most advanced computers." Chancellor Haewon, her feathers now showing silver streaks from the stress of war, listened with the attention that comes from hard-earned wisdom. "But humans taught us that strength sometimes means being willing to crawl through sewers to complete a mission."